Halloween on Daily Delivery. Hope everyone's having a great day out there. Glad to be back for another day. I am your host, Michael Rand. Thursday, yes, as also known as Halloween. Stay dry out there. Good news for all you parents or, adults who like to trick-or-treat. Supposed to be drier as the day goes on. Took my kids to the bus stop this morning. We got soaked. At least I did. I didn't have an umbrella. I gave both of the umbrellas to the kids. They walked there. They stayed dry. I got wet. Supposed to be nicer, though, later today for the trick-or-treating. Cold, but nice. We'll take it. We'll get the candy, all that good stuff. Good show coming up today. Star Tribune columnist Velle E. Neal III will join me here in just a little bit for our daily delivery debate segment, talking Vikings, talking MLS shootout formats, talking Gopher football on today's show. Velle gets to go to Illinois, his alma mater. First time he'll be on campus in 35 years, he said. Amazing to me, but that should be fun for him traveling for the Gophers Illinois game this weekend. So we'll get into that. We'll get into all sorts of stuff, like I said, a little bit later on. A startling WNBA stat that I did not realize until I saw it. 7 coaches now, 7 out of the 12 teams currently in the WNBA are changing coaches this offseason. The latest, Stephanie White from Connecticut. I'll talk about that at the end of the show. First, though, what did I miss on a night where there wasn't a whole lot of local action? I could lock in on the World Series. I want to tell you about one of my favorite plays in one of my least favorite World Series of all time. Dodgers trailing the Yankees 5-0 in Game 5. Dodgers up 3-1 in the series. Looks like LA is kind of in danger of some slippage here, right? Garrett Cole is cruising for the Yankees. Looks like it might be sent back to LA for a Game 6 after LA took the first 3. Yankees would have some momentum going. You're thinking, okay, is this going to be an all-time historic rally from a 3-0 deficit in the World Series? Dodgers down 5-0. Get some gifts from the Yankees, some misplays, some adventures, some outs turned into non-outs. They get to the point where they load the bases with nobody out, but Garrett Cole comes back, strikes out the next 2 batters, including Shohei Ohtani. Looks like they could get out of the inning unscathed. It's still 5-0. Mookie Betts at the plate hits a routine ground ball to first base. Very routine. But Betts sprints out of the batter's box, sees that there's some potential in this play, runs and beats it out. Garrett Cole forgets or just doesn't cover first base. Yankees first baseman caught napping. All of a sudden, Betts beats it out, beats him to the bag, 5-1. Instead of 5-0 inning over, 5-1, still inning going. Freddie Freeman follows with a single to center, 5-3. Teoscar Hernandez follows with a hit to center field, 5-5. So out of all of this, they get 5 runs because Mookie Betts hustles down the line. Takes advantage of the third misplay in the inning by the Yankees. That was one of my favorite plays of the game. Mookie Betts totally turning the game around, becomes 5-5. Yankees get a run later to go up 6-5, but the Dodgers get 2 more in the 8th. They win the game 7-6. They win the World Series 4-1. It was a good series in terms of the action on the field. I'm not going to take anything away from the action on the field. Why I say it's one of my least favorite World Series of all time is that it once again reinforced how baseball is broken. The haves and the have-nots, the disparity between the haves and the have-nots, a reflection of the growing problem in our society, that the haves are having more, the have-nots are having less, and we're supposed to pretend that it's fair. Baseball is absolutely a payroll game. Both of these teams in the top 5 in payroll. Dodgers listed at number 5 at around $240 million. Guess what? That conveniently leaves out the fact that Shohei Ohtani is basically making $70 million this season, but it's a lot of deferred salary. So on the payroll tracker, it shows up as $2 million. The Dodgers payroll, for all intents and purposes, is right up over $300 million, just like the Yankees. They're among the top 3. They're the only 3 that are over $300 million. Guess what? The World Series in each of the last 7 years now has been won by a team in the top 10 in payroll, often in the top 5, 3 times now by the team with the highest payroll in the majors. Payroll absolutely influences who is able to win these games. Baseball needs a better system. Teams in the middle of the payroll can make the playoffs. I'm not saying they can't, but by the time they get down to the division series, the league championship series, they cannot compete. We've been hammering the Twins for years and years and years. Why can't you get over the hump? They can't get over the hump because they can't spend as much as the other teams. Maybe every once in a while a team like that is going to win, is going to jump up in spite of the fixed nature of the game right now and jump up and win a World Series every once in a while, but it has not happened lately. It does not generally happen. It is not a fair fight. Now, I know they're trying to make it a fairer fight. I know that TV revenue is a huge part of this puzzle, that all of these big market teams have their own TV deals that pay them massive amounts of money because they get to keep a lot of the local TV revenue, whereas it is, more shared, more equal, more even in a lot of these other salary cap sports, the NBA, the NHL, NFL, salary cap sports where every team has a legitimate chance to compete. Yeah, the NBA salary cap is kind of weird. It doesn't really work all that well. There's all sorts of loopholes, things like that, but ostensibly every team starts out at a point where they have a chance to compete, where you feel like the playing field is relatively level, especially in the NHL, pretty much in the NFL as well. You feel like if you have a good thing going, if you draft well, if you make good decisions, you can win a championship. I don't feel like that is possible in baseball unless something fluky happens. So that is why this was one of my least favorite World Series. It's two teams that spend their way to the top and stay there, and it just bothers me. It's one of the reasons that baseball has completely turned me off in the last 5 or 10 years. I was a huge baseball fan growing up. The 80s, the 90s, could not get enough baseball. It is one of the sports that I've watched less and less and less over the last 5 or 10 years because this bothers me so much. So good for you, Dodgers. It was a fun series. I love the play by Mookie Betts. I love the action on the field. You can't dispute was very good. But the sport itself, the structure of the sport itself is so completely flawed that until they fix it, it will be hard to get back into baseball like I ever once was. It is daily delivery debate time with Velle E. Neal III. Velle, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How's everything?
I'm good. It's been a big week, man. It feels like we say this every week, but it feels like there's just been a lot. Tuesday night was a big night of sports. Some of that will dovetail into our discussion here. But first debate topic I want to get into today is Vikings related. When they were 5-0 on top of the world, we were like, okay, how long is this going to last? Now they're 5-2. Lost their left tackle, traded for a left tackle. Joe Flacco is playing Sunday instead of Anthony Richardson. My question for you is, do they stop the bleeding this weekend? Do they stop this kind of mini swoon? We can call it a mini swoon when it's 2 games. They haven't been playing as well lately. Do they stop it, or is this the start of something that's going to kind of dominate the rest of their season? Does the bleeding keep going this weekend?
I think I like their chances of bouncing back this week. They've had a kind of a mini bye to self-assess and make some adjustments and kind of look at what they've been doing right, what doing wrong. And, defensively, I think they probably have realized that their attention to detail has been lacking. They haven't executed the way they want to execute. I was shocked to see this, but that defense has allowed the second most passing yards average in the NFL. I didn't know it was that bad. I see a Vikings defense with Brian Flores. I'm thinking, okay, they're attack minded, they're getting sacks, they're turning the ball over. But the last couple of weeks, teams have had success against them, and it shows in the stats. Flacco presents a different challenge for the Vikings, no doubt. He's a capable veteran. He came off the bench last year for Cleveland against the Bears and beat them. He definitely, he's going to get the ball he's going to spread the ball around. He's going to find his tight end. I'm sure Michael Pittman's thrilled to have a competent guy there. But the reason I really like the Vikings' chances here, it's not just this week, but the next 2 or 3 weeks, is that they are running up against some teams here who have struggled with the pass defense. This is a chance for your boy Sam Darnold to get right against a Colts secondary that's in the bottom third in the league in average yards per game given up. And I think that's the case over the next couple of weeks until they go to Chicago on November 24th. So these next 3 games, I think Darnold has a chance to get the passing game going and get the Vikings on the right side of things here. So I like their chances against Indianapolis, a team that's kind of reeling right now. Jonathan Taylor's also a quality back. They got to watch out for him. But, I think this is the weekend that they'll go to 6-2 and start feeling a little bit better about themselves.
Well, I think they need to. You can't lose this one, because if you lose this one, then you start like, like, is this the start of something worse? I think you're right. I don't think this is an easy game. I don't think it's a walkover game, but they need to. I think Darnold played well last week against the Rams, but things just didn't go their way, especially in the second half. They got to clean up some of the stuff that's been troubling them. But to me, the bigger thing is they are dead last in the NFL in plays, offensive plays run. They need to stay on the field. They need to be able to explore their full offensive menu. They don't throw the ball very much. They've thrown the ball like 27 times a game this season. Like, maybe this is the game. TJ Hawkinson probably back for this game. We'll see how much rust there is there. You kind of get your full complement of resources. What does it look like? Does the offense still stay 55% balanced run pass, or do they feel comfortable enough to open it up to get some of those 10-play drives that are predicated more in the passing game? Because you're going to need to have that, I think, as the season advances. I want to see that in this game, because you're right, the Colts are not a great pass defense team.
The flip side of that, too, I think the Vikings offense is most effective when Aaron Jones is running the ball well. And you can't ignore him when you're trying to see some continuity in offense and piling up first downs and running offensive plays. Running the ball is going to be a key component to that. So a healthy Aaron Jones is really opens up things for the passing game as well. And also will help that Darnold will have his tight end back in Hawkinson. But I think it's got to be a balance. I wouldn't want to see Aaron Donald this weekend. I like to see a blend with Aaron Jones being effective and Darnold spreading the ball around and finding his new receiver, TJ Hawkinson.
I think you're right, but I think, if they're only running 56, 57 plays a game, get that up to kind of more like where they were last year, 63, 65 plays a game. Then that average, then you get that balance. Everybody's getting 30 plus, 30 plus throws, 30 plus runs. You get a chance to be more explosive there. They're just not running a lot of plays. Defense has been on the field a lot. A lot of pressure put on the defense. They've not responded, certainly in the red zone. So this is a sneaky big game. Got flexed to Sunday night. Maybe it looks more intriguing now that Flacco is in there and there's kind of some of that quarterback change intrigue. But this feels like a pivot game for the season. Lose this one, and I don't love the way the rest of this year goes. Win this one in a way that makes you feel good. Then you can say, okay, yeah, glad you traded for Cam Robinson. This season can still be something that you think is big.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. After Indianapolis, they're at Jacksonville. Everybody beats up on Jacksonville. And then they're at Tennessee. And that's a little bit of a tester there because Tennessee's defense is pretty good. But there's definitely a beatable team. Trust me, I watched the Bears beat both those teams.
Yes.
So they can be had. So I think this would be the start of a run where they can win 2 or 3 consecutive 2 or 3 games here in next month.
How's everything in Bears land, by the way, after the the way things ended last week?
Not good. Eberflus is really taking some heat. And here's a tough thing, Mike. And this is I'm like the last person to like start calling for a culture manager to get fired because I have had a feel to see how difficult it is to get a room full of men to push in the same direction. And also, good players make coaches and managers look good.
Yes.
But going back to last year, the Bears have lost 4 games in which they were in the fourth quarter with a win probability over 90%. And twice it was like 98%. Yeah, that's not good. And that's game management. That's Eberflus, who, in that last play, that Hail Mary was crazy because there's a replay that shows Caleb Williams like seeing Tariq Stevenson out of position, and he's screaming at someone that are you paying attention to this? Someone could call a timeout. Eberflus all 3 timeouts in the second half. That would have been a great time to kind of hit a timeout to make sure everybody's on the same page. And who knew that? I mean, how is Eberflus going to expect someone like Stevenson to go on a walkabout, at the last few seconds of the game? But it happened. So all this all this is, it's not a good reflection on Eberflus. I think he's a brilliant defensive coordinator, great defensive mind, but his game management is getting him into trouble. And that may be addressed during the offseason here, unless the Bears somehow get on a hot streak.
Haven't we learned blitz the Hail Mary? Blitz the Hail Mary. Don't just rush 3 or 4 and let that guy run around until everybody gets down the field. I think there's a new way to defend that, and it's not the way they did it. Yeah,
a lot of people have brought that up. It's hard for me to get mad at him about strategy because he's such a good defensive guy. I guess it's a personal preference, but when you have a great athlete like Jayden Daniels who's able to run around free, you may want to account for that and maybe at least rush 4, or do something a little different. Because rushing 3 when 2 guys are getting double team, that's just going to buy him all kinds of time to get the ball down the field, and we saw what happened there.
Okay, Lavelle. Minnesota United beat Real Salt Lake in the opening game of the MLS playoff series on Tuesday night. 0-0 after 90 minutes to really the surprise of nobody. And then the Loons win on penalty kicks. They go straight to penalty kicks in MLS. I don't love this format. I feel like you got to go international. You got to play the 30 minutes of overtime. See if somebody can at least score a legitimate goal. I don't love the fact that you could just play for a 0-0 draw and go straight to penalties. What do you think?
I've been paying attention to soccer since 1994, and I've seen different formats. You have to remember, MLS used to have the shootout where the guy would start at damn near at midfield and make a rush at the goal. It was just hilarious, I think there needs to be some wiggle room for some sort of over extra time period. There's a lot. Dan Garber is talking about doing a lot of things to fall in line with the rest of the international soccer leagues. He's talking about switching to a fall-winter schedule, which is terrifying to me. With the fact that you got teams in Minnesota, Seattle, Montreal, and Vancouver, you want to have games in January at home? You got to be kidding me. And this is the other thing. So this could go right in that basket here, though. If he wants to follow the rest of the world, have an extra time. Have some sort of period. I don't know if it's 30. I don't know if it's 20. I don't know if it's 15.
Something.
Have some time before you go to PKs, because it seems like it's just such a hard right turn that you're making in the middle of this game when you're fighting hard. I know it's 90 minutes. Guys are tired. Guys are fatigued. But you can have all overtime period and add a substitute. So you got one more substitute to make for the overtime period, and or whatever you want to call it, stop extra time, whatever, stop
extra time.
And go for there. Now the Loons prevail.
Usually we complain about this when it goes against Minnesota teams. We're talking about it went their way.
Yeah, all the Loons do is tie with Real Salt Lake, and
yes,
So, but they did not suffer the fate of other Minnesota sports teams because of bad calls and bad structures here. So they get to play another day. But it is worth looking at, I think, if MLS is serious about being more in line with what's going on in the rest of the world.
Okay, Lavelle, follow me on this last topic. Were the Gophers robbed of potential college football playoff dreams? Here's the thing. Now, they gave a game away at the start of the season. This is maybe part of the conversation. This is not they were robbed. This is they missed a field goal. They didn't play great against North Carolina. They lost that game, but they lost to Michigan. Bad call. Again, back to the bad call. Back to the gripes here. The offside on the onside kick when they were down by 3 with minute left, however much time it was, looked like they could have gone on and at least tied, maybe even scored and won there. We didn't think much of it at the time because they were on a losing streak. They were not looking that good at that point. But if they win that game, they're sitting at 6-2 right now, and I don't know. I feel like they're on a run right now where they could have been in the national conversation if not for that play. We didn't think about it at the time, but with those 3 wins since then, that bothers me more and more since what's happened later.
I'm gonna give PJ credit for getting the things turned around when they looked bleak, because they had the great home victory against USC. They went to UCLA and won, and they pounded on Maryland.
Yes.
Brosmer continues to make strides as a quarterback on the Power 4 level. Coy Parrish has emerged as a force. I keep thinking of I knew a guy who played safety and also returned kicks for his team. His name was Brian Urlacher, who played at New Mexico.
You mentioned him last week. Yeah,
I see Parrish back there. I was
like,
look at it, guy, safety returning kicks. and Urlacher was a safety at times for New Mexico as well. But I can't get over. Yeah, you have to be judged on the totality of the season. They did lose to Iowa,
big,
but I can't get over the North Carolina loss. All right, because 2 weeks
terrible. Yeah.
2 weeks after that, North Carolina gave up 70 to James Madison.
James Madison to one guy.
Madison.
Okay. Just kidding. Yeah.
I can't let them off the hook for that opening loss. That should have been a victory. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Every team can look to 1 and 2 plays that can change their season around. The Gophers are looking at that right now, and they have to deal with it. Let's see how this weekend goes. This is going to be a rather interesting matchup for the conference between two teams who overall are probably a little bit better than people expected. Illinois was 6-1 before going to Oregon and getting hammered. And now they get to play host to a Minnesota team who, the Gophers should be thinking about revenge. This should be a major revenge game because they've lost twice at home to Illinois, both in stunning second half fashion. Bielema is 10-0 against Illinois.
It's crazy.
Which goes beyond the PJ Fleck administration. There should be blood. They should be spitting blood this weekend at Illinois for the torment they've been through with them in recent years. If they beat Illinois and then they got Rutgers, which is a winnable game. It's the 8th in Kalakmanis reunion, although he may not be the starter by then. But then you got Penn State, and then you got Wisconsin. So it's still challenging. Yes, you could say that if things went the way it should have went against Michigan, that the season would be rather interesting. I still think it is rather interesting because there's a path to 8 wins, and I think that's more than a lot of people anticipated for this team this year. But I'm not ready to say that their national dreams have been shattered just because of one bad call, because I can't get over the North Carolina loss, and they did lose to Iowa.
That's fair. I think the one thing Randy Johnson and I talked about the other day, which I think is absolutely kind of germane to this conversation, is the expanded football playoff, 12, probably be 16 at some point, absolutely puts those thoughts in play for a team like Minnesota, where it just wasn't part of the equation before. You were not going to be a top 4 team from Minnesota. You can be a top 12 team. You can be a top 16 team in your best years. Every 3 to 5 years, you can have a team worthy of being in that designation.
And that is why the playoff is great for college football.
I agree. I love it.
I hated that a good team would lose one game and realize that they're screwed for the rest of the year now because that one game's going to cost them a chance of playing in a national title game. That's always bugged me. Bowl games are great, and having the one championship game is great, but I think the playoff format's been fantastic, and I'm glad they expanded it. What's going to happen though? They're probably going to overcorrect and keep expanding it until it's like the NCAA basketball tournament.
Everybody gets in. Yeah,
I know. Well, heck, they're talking about doubling that one. So they once these doors open, they probably go a little too bananas. But this door needed to be open because now you have teams like Minnesota who have a little more hope, or they got things to play for. Because hey, we may be able to sneak into this bad boy if we get on a run here and things go our way. There's no doom and gloom now because you got 2 losses in midseason. So I like the fact that it's been expanded.
You're going to Illinois this weekend to help cover this game. Read a column from Minnesota at Illinois. Your first time on your alma mater campus in 35 years. Is that what I understand? Yeah,
35 years ago. It's about 35 years. I went back for homecoming against Northwestern, and that's the last time I've been at the University of Illinois. So it's going to be interesting to see what buildings are still standing, how much sprawl has taken place since I've been gone. I think about 35 years is a long time, man. God, I can't believe I haven't been back. So I'm going to go in a day early just so I can walk around on Friday and kind of feel the vibe and see if some of my old hangouts are still there, and see if the same restaurants, see if Garcia's Pizza is still there. They had a pizza slice called the Gut Buster, which was the greatest thing ever.
What was it? What was it? I want to know.
It was pretty much everything you could think of, just thrown on a big slice of pizza.
Was it like Chicago style, like big and thick, or was it?
It wasn't that thick. It was in between. It wasn't thin. It wasn't thick. It was a single serve pan pizza. So it was like this block. Okay. It was like a square pan that was a big block pizza, and it was delicious.
That sounds pretty good. Yeah, I could get into that.
Yeah. So I'm hoping Garcia's is still there, but I don't know. I think I may not recognize half the campus. 35 years, the way colleges grow. What did the University of Minnesota look like 35 years ago? Without the football stadium, without some of the new buildings on campus. So I'm just imagining how much different Champaign's going to look when I get there.
Lavelle, I was a freshman at the U of M 30 years ago, and let me tell you what, I mean, I see it all the time because we're right here, but it's like so much has changed. Like some of it's still the same. Like Mariucci was already there. Williams Arena was already there.
Right.
UCF Bank Stadium or Huntington was not there. No. A lot of the new buildings. But what's most different is the surrounding neighborhoods, though. Like Dinkytown, completely different. Stadium Village, completely different. Like all the new housing complexes, things like that. It's gonna. I think what's going to surprise you most is what's built around it more than what's on campus.
Right. Jog my memory. Is Sally still open over at the U?
Yeah, Sally's is still there. It's new. It's part of like a new kind of mixed development, retail, and I think housing and stuff like that. But it is still there. What's that?
In the same spot?
More or less. Yeah, I think it's more or less the same spot. So you can go check it out.
When I first moved here, I loved going there for lunch. I go there almost once a week. It was a great spot. I didn't know if it was still there because I think that's where the light rail went down too. So it's kind of hard to get over there, I think.
Well, unless you're on the light rail, then you can just get right over there. You can drive close enough. You can get over there. Go check out Sally's. Go. Maybe we'll do a campus tour sometime, Lavelle. We'll do that. All right. Well, enjoy going back to your old school, and we'll talk again next week.
Okie dokie.
Watch your dreams and savings grow with Royal Credit Union's 4.25% annual percentage yield 12-month certificate. Open now at any Royal office or online at rcu.org/certificate saver. Early withdrawal penalties could reduce earnings and principal. APY accurate as of 2/1/25. Insured by NCUA.
Good stuff from Lavelle. He wrote about the Wild today, by the way. Go check that out. Star Tribune and StarTribune.com. Their hot start. Reasons that could be sustainable. I think they just might be better than we thought. I think they're kind of like the Vikings, where we underestimated them because of the past, because of what we looked at their roster and said, it's just more of the same. A lot of their players who were, hurt last year or who didn't quite achieve to the levels you want are achieving to the levels you'd want right now, and that is making a huge difference. So we will see if they can keep that going. We'll talk more about the Wild on Friday's show. By the way, Sarah McClellan, beat writer for the Star Tribune, will join me to talk about the Wild. Chris Hine, Timberwolves beat writer, will also join me to talk about the Wolves. Both teams have big home games on Friday, so I wanted to get both of them represented on Friday's show. So look forward to that on Friday. A lot of talk about those teams. And speaking of the last topic, Lavelle and I talked about the Gopher football team and whether they could have won whether they could have been in the college football playoff conversation this year. I wrote about that yesterday. You can find that on StarTribune.com. Just kind of making the case, hey, this is a team that I thought that the season was lost, and now you have to reframe it. You look at it like, man, they're 5-3, 3 wins in a row, and if not for completely bungling things in that 1917 loss to North Carolina, if not for getting totally hosed at the end of that Michigan game, or perhaps playing better at the beginning of that game, knowing that Michigan at this point is not all that great, this, ifs and buts, they could be 7-1 right now. They certainly could be 7-1. Yeah, the Iowa game, that was legit. They lost to Iowa. They got steamrolled in the second half. Iowa ran all over them, but they are certainly peaking right now. So I would have loved to see what might have been if they had won both of those games. They would absolutely be in the conversation right now, heading into that big game Saturday at Illinois. Let us finish now with the cooler. Like I said at the beginning, WNBA. I did not realize that this was going on. I saw that there was some coach movement. I saw the Indiana coach got let go the other day, but I didn't put this all together until I saw the headline today. I think it was in the Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Stephanie White and Connecticut mutually agreeing to part ways. She's no longer the head coach there. Connecticut now the 7th WNBA team to part ways, to fire or otherwise let go of a head coach just this offseason. 7 out of 12. There's still just 12 WNBA teams, at least that currently are playing, that played in this past season. 7 out of 12 have changed coaches. Translate that to another sport. Imagine if proportionally that many NFL or NBA or NHL teams change coaches. That'd be like, in the teens and the high teens. That'd be like 18 or 19 NFL coaches. That'd be like, 16 or 17 NBA or NHL coaches changing in an offseason. That would be absolutely bonkers. It'd be absolutely wild. Same with baseball. That would be absolutely bonkers. It still is bonkers in the WNBA. It shows how teams are trying to be more competitive. It shows that, just status quo is not going to get it done in a lot of these cases. That the teams are hungry to compete, that they are hungry for more market share as this league continues to grow. And man, it sure makes you appreciate the stability that the Lynx have with Cheryl Reeve, who's been here for a very long time. Head coach of the Lynx since 2010, just finished her 15th season with the Lynx. That's amazing. I mean, obviously, no reason for them to make a change. She's had a wild amount of success. Came within, a play of winning another WNBA title this year, completely out of the blue from where they started the season. Does make you appreciate the stability and the ability they have with Cheryl Reeve when all these other teams, all these other coaches are changing. That will do it for me today. Like I said, Timberwolves and Wild Talk on tomorrow's show with Chris Hine and Sarah McClellan. Until then, I am Michael Rand. Stay dry. Have a great Halloween. Eat some candy. Talk to you again on Friday.